you do.
Absolutely. So I'm Dayna Abraham, and I'm the founder of Calm the Chaos. And I started online about 7 years ago when I was a national board certified teacher, and I had a little 7-year-old who was really struggling in school. And it just became quite evident that he wasn't going to fit in traditional school setting. So I came home, started a blog because I felt like everything else out there was picture perfect, and I needed to know that I wasn't the only one. And over the last 7 years, I've built an audience of millions of people. And so just if you feel like you're alone and you're failing and your kid, something's wrong with your kid, I can tell you you're not, because I've built an audience of millions who struggle with exactly what you're probably struggling with. And in Calm the Chaos, what we do is we help parents and caregivers of kids that are out of the box. And what we mean by that is kids that don't fit a traditional like checklist or mold. A lot of people think, oh, it means they have a diagnosis. Like, no, not necessarily, but sometimes. What it means is that they struggle to fit in. And what we find is a lot of the grown-ups that come to us, they struggled to fit in when they were a kid too. And so they've been putting these expectations and norms on their kids because they want their kids to be successful. And all that they're doing is repeating what happened to them when they were growing up. And so what we do is we have a simplified system. It's 4 steps, and it can be applied to if you're dealing with behavior issues, but it expands much further than that. It works with time management. It works with building businesses. It works with dealing with your pets. It works with your relationship with your spouse, because it takes the research from just how to be a good human and puts it all together in a simplified format, so you don't have to pick and choose. You really just, can follow the steps that are already put in place.
Well, Dayna, okay, so now I want to say first, Dayna last year was a speaker at the Happily Family Conference, and I'm sharing that this week too, but I was listening to your video yesterday about some of the differences there, and I want to hit that nail on the head, because I don't want my audience to be confused, and I've been very they're totally different things, even though Dayna was a speaker there last year. And what I love about Happily Family is there's a lot of great information. But what I love about what you do is it's the information put together in a usable format with a great community. Yeah. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So I love Jason and Cecilia Hilke. Go sign up. I will recommend them as well. Love Jason and Cecilia, and I love all the speakers they have over there, because they have this uncanny ability to gather the best researchers and the best experts in the field of parenting, and especially parenting kids that are out of the box, kids that are spirited or aggressive or whatever. They have that, and they've got all these great relationships with the experts, and so it's a great knowledge bomb. You cannot find a better place to learn from experts in the industry. All that said, all the learning in the world, if you cannot implement it, then it doesn't matter how much you learn. And so that's something that I found, because I'm a lifelong learner. So I'm always putting information together. And growing up, I thought I was broken because I can soak in information and then just regurgitate it back. But reading, not my jam. Even now, when people post big wall of text posts, I just get lost and I can't follow the information. I used to struggle with project management, and I used to struggle with organization. And it wasn't until I started having my own business that people would say, oh, I wish I was as organized as you. And I'm like, I am actually the worst organized person in the world, but my brain needs systems to be able to implement it and be able to remember it. And so you're not going to hear me talking about polyvagal theory. I understand it, but I'm not going to talk about it. Instead, I can put it into action. And so that's really the difference. It's not better or worse. It's just taking
No.
all of that goodness, taking Dan Siegel, taking Ross Green, taking, positive parenting strategies, taking mindfulness parenting strategies, and then like putting them in the pot and saying, okay, there's 4 key elements that you need. And I guarantee you could sort all of that great information over there into these 4 key elements. Like I've once you get the framework, you start seeing it everywhere. You're like, oh my gosh, they must be CTC. And you're like, no, that's just being a good human. Like that's like success leaves trails. And so we've just kind of woven the successful habits together.
Well, and this is what I saw as a student in Calm the Chaos last year. I consumed all of your modules. I'll be honest, I haven't implemented everything I've learned, but everything I implemented has served my family well. And to me, this is not something I just do and I'm done with. It's an ongoing process, and it just continues.
Yeah.
So I loved the course. Now, what Dayna has right now is the 7 days to less chaos workshop. And that is totally free. Now, at the end of it, if you want to go further and learn more with Dayna, there is a course at the end of it. But if all a parent does is that workshop, I am convinced they will come out the other end a better parent.
Yeah.
So, and I know you are too.
Yeah, it's really, can I tell a quick little story? It's like my new favorite story.
Yes,
so just yesterday on my Facebook ads, I'm getting a lot from people who were like, well, you shouldn't do that. And all, like you should just beat them. Like you'd be amazed at the comments. But there was this one comment where this friend tagged her other friend and she says, hey, interested? And her friend goes, no, not at all. You can't change behavior in 7 days. Now, there's truth to that. There is truth to you can't create a habit in 7 days, but you can make a choice. You can make a choice as soon as now. And I would, if anyone's thinking, yeah, she's right, you can't change behavior in less than 7 days, I would ask, is there anything you ever changed in less than 7 days? I know I picked up a new healthy habit, and because I had the guidance, and because I had the coaching, and because I had the support, I was able to make that transformation quickly. Now I needed the ongoing accountability to keep it going. So I strongly believe that, because what I've seen and how quickly people get progress and results in our program and even in our free workshop. And so yesterday on our coaching call for the free workshop, this lady was sharing, she has twins. One goes to school, one's staying home, both ADHD. And last year was just a nightmare sending her kid to school. She just fought with her daughter every single morning. And she said, I told her, I'm not doing that this year. I'm not going to deal with the emotional abuse. Like, I'm just not doing it. She can walk or ride her bike. It's 2 miles. She can do it herself. And she said, but this morning, she was like, it was a nightmare. Like getting her ready for school was a nightmare. I woke her up in time, and then she was just playing on her iPad, and then she wouldn't get ready. And then she yelled at me and called me names and told me I was the worst mom ever, that I didn't give her enough time. And then she called her dad, and her dad picked her up and drove her to school. She goes, so I need to know what I'm supposed to do when she gets home. And I said, okay. So I walked her through what to do when she gets home. I said, let's walk through the UQ. Let's walk through the framework. And she came on today, and I was a little nervous, and she unmuted, and I said, all right, how'd it go? And she goes, so my daughter, like I did what you said, and I changed my thoughts about it, and I knew it wasn't about her, and I figured she'd probably be exhausted or not about me, and that she'd be exhausted when she got, home from school. So I actually drove to the bus stop and picked her up, and she threw her backpack in the car, and then she walked home because she actually felt like walking home. And we came into the house. I did exactly what you said. I connected, but didn't force connection. I said, hey, I'm really excited about your day, and I want to hear about it. But you know what? I can hear about it later. Why don't you go do what you want? And her daughter was like, okay. And her daughter went off and went and played outside, came back later that night and was just like relaxing with mom, super comfortable, no fighting. And her mom's like, okay, so I think we need to talk about tomorrow. And her daughter said, Mom, I really liked that you picked me up at the bus stop. I wish you could like maybe go beside me. Like, I don't want to walk to school. I would like to ride my bike. Maybe you can go beside me. And her mom's like, you mean drive my car? She goes, no, ride your bike. And the mom was like, I have muscular like disease. It's really hard for me. And like normally I'd be frustrated because I told her I wasn't going to take her to school. She goes, but I just said it's not about me. This is about her. Like, let me find out what she needs. And so she just shifted and she said, you know what? I'm worried because of my bones and about my muscles. And I'm worried that I might not be able to make it. So we may have to leave earlier. Her daughter was like, okay, got everything ready that night, got up early, got the bikes ready. They rode their bike to school and they had a beautiful morning. Like that is transformational. Like if you do that and then in one day, like what's possible when you make this your lifestyle?
Yes, yes. And Dayna, I believe you can make changes in a day. And I have made changes in a day as a result of your workshop, your course. I am a better parent today because I met you, Dayna. That's the bottom line. So I could actually try to make a difference. Dang, I didn't expect that. I know I told you last year, it was so challenging. And it's not perfect, but it's better than it was. It's better than it was. So dang, I'm embarrassed.
No, oh my gosh. I needed to hear that. I just got off of a really hard meeting with my team. And so I think it was just really, really helpful to hear that because
when I was talking to Erin, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just,
go ahead.
It can get, yeah, you just, you don't see the ripple effect. And what one of my team members said, I said, how am I supposed to go live? I just had like a really hard meeting and like, I'm not even ready yet. Like I probably look like I just stopped crying. And she goes, just remember Joy's story from this morning. And I like, that's the story I just told you. And so to then hear every time, like I could listen to stories all day long. And we used to have a couple, like a handful of them that I held on to really tight. And now I don't think there is a person in this world that could shake my belief that this system works because I've seen the transformation. And it's not me, it's you doing the hard work. We just organized it for you. That's all we did.
You organize it, yes. But you show up in your community so well. And Dayna, I may not be super active in the comments, but I read more than I type because I tend to be on it when I'm on my cell phone, not on my desktop, and I type fast. But I am the world's slowest. I'm like, I'm barely touching the buttons. Oh, I'm slow at texting. And so it just takes me too long to leave a decent comment half the time. So I don't. But I honestly have been absolutely floored. And Dayna, I don't know if you know how little I knew about you when I asked you to be on the podcast last year.
No.
So I saw you on stage in Canada. And then I think I texted you before you were off the stage. And then I came home and I asked if you would be on the podcast. And then your team said, well, Jackie, do you want to be an affiliate? I barely knew what that was. And I'm like, well, sure. All I was asking for was a guest on my podcast. And I was like, she's a mom who's been in a flip side of the story where your kiddo was in school and then homeschooled. And I didn't know all these things. But once I realized you had all these other things, I started looking you up and I was like, oh, and then I was nervous because Dayna, you were the third interview I ever did, and I think the first one I ever published. You waited for me for like 45 minutes last year to figure this stuff out.
That's
to record.
Amazing. But you did it. That's the thing about you, Jackie. Like you just take action. It's so empowering. I love it.
Well, thank you. But I wasn't trying to make it about me, but you moved me from the stage, and I thought, this mom has been where I've been, and she would be a great guest on my podcast because she's had these challenges and she's overcome them. And then I realized how big you were, and I was like, I didn't know she was a best-selling author. I didn't know you had all these things. I was like, oh, not only has she been where she's been, but where I've been, but she has solutions. That was like eye-opening to me. So really, I started sharing your stuff not at all from a sales perspective, like trying to sell anything. And I try to be so honest, like, I'm going to feel it now. I get a kickback if you end up buying something from Dayna, but I don't share someone's message if I don't think it will help homeschool families. End of story. I have no interest in doing that because I would not be in integrity. I wouldn't feel good about it, you know? And I really believe in what you do. But last year, all the comments, and then Dayna, I don't know if you don't even want to speak to this, it's okay. But I didn't ever catch the result, but I know there was a mama in there that was struggling, and I think the community wondered if she if she took her own life. You know, I don't know.
So we have, I mean, we deal with.
And your coaches, people showed up.
Yeah,
So,
we have things in place. I mean, when you're dealing with an out-of-the-box kid, that's one thing. But the thing that doesn't get talked about is that most of us moms are dealing with so much from our past. And I feel like it's on my heart more and more to talk about this. We don't talk about abuse. We don't talk about trauma. We don't talk about all the things that the majority of women have gone through and hide. And so then when we have kids, then we just feel like a failure, and all that trauma comes back up. It shows back up in our parenting. It shows back up in the way that we were treated as kids. Many of us were out of the box. Many of us didn't fit in. Now we're trying to have kids that don't fit in, and we don't want them to have the same life we had. So we parent out of fear. And then you are dealt with so much guilt and so much like just pressure. And so that's why we've like redone the whole program. And so what you're seeing in the 7 days is completely brand new, never done before. I didn't have an outline today till 9 a.m. But I know it like the back of my hand. So
I know you do it.
I do, but
Dayna,
I don't want the 9 o'clock to sound like I just put it together. Like, oh, I just like put this thing together for you. Yeah.
No. Last night, I watched day 1 this morning. I didn't get to it yesterday. I am too busy with my kiddos on Mondays.
Okay.
Too much going on. But that's what I love, is you can go back and watch it when it works for you. So when I first started watching it, I was like, is she really live? And I'm like, yeah, she is. And then, but I could feel your nerves. But about 10 minutes into it, I was like, there's Dayna. There's the Dayna we all love and know. Okay, come on, Dayna.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I've only talked to you once last year in an interview, but because we watched all these videos with you, and then because you show up live with these online meetups, and you're like a mom at home too, you know, you're dressed up in all the things today, but on those live calls, you're just Dayna, you know, but you're Dayna with knowledge and Dayna with a heart, and Dayna who's there to guide you. And so, and that's when I saw you fall into yourself, I was like, there she is. Now, this is the moment, you know, because I was just like, there she is. And I love you, Dayna. Like, I just love, you're just so sweet, and you're so real and so genuinely helpful. And this is what I want people to hear, is like, Dayna's workshop, her course, her stuff works, but she's a real human, you know, like you're just you to the core. And I can feel that, even though I've never had a face-to-face conversation with you, where I could touch you. And I can feel it, and that, to me, it really resonates. It makes all the difference. And it makes me really happy to share what you have because I think it's awesome. So can I ask you, will you teach us one little thing or do a quick synopsis? And I forgot. Do you need to go, Dayna? Before
I'm
we
good.
dive into it?
Let's do one thing and then I'm good.
One thing.
What do you
Here's
want me
what
to
I was
share?
going to ask you.
Yeah.
One thing. Let's say somebody were to go and click the link now and sign up for your stuff and dive right into this amazing Facebook group that you have. Would you do a quick recap of what you taught this morning? Those 4 parts of your
of the first
system,
video?
your road.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can
just
I share
the
my screen?
fastest recap you
No,
can.
probably
yes,
not.
Absolutely. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I bet I can change it. I'm almost good enough for this kind of stuff now. I hope you can.
You are good enough for everything you need to be. You're totally fine.
Well, what I mean is good enough at handling Zoom. Okay, I can share my screen. Here, I'm going to do multiple participants can share simultaneously. I'm not trying to share mine, but maybe that'll make it so you can share yours.
Yep.
Did it?
Yep.
Do you have the option?
I do.
Yeah.
Give me 1
Yay!
second.
I did it. See? Last year I would not have got this done. I would have been like, oh.
All right. So you're going to just see my doodle pad here because that's what I do.
Dayna, you need to just create Dayna's doodles. I'm telling you, you could do like Dayna Doodle coloring books.
That's so funny. I just found out about this, so I'm going to give a plug if you don't even mind. Diane Bleck at Doodle Institute, because I know that you have you help homeschoolers, and like you're like, guys, go check it out. Like Diane Bleck, Doodle Institute. She's got all sorts of really amazing courses. So I've always doodled my whole life.
Diane, I'm writing it down.
Diane Bleck. Yeah. So I've always doodled my whole life, but they've always been really hard. My team is like so happy now that I've figured out doodles that make sense. Okay. So
yeah, they do.
They do. Good. All right. So I'm going to give you our little roadmap here. So basically our 4-step system is that, and we like to draw it like this with circles. So those of you that are listening on the podcast later, I'm just drawing 3 circles that look like a Venn diagram. And so there's 4 pieces. There's connect, understand, and empower, with you at the center, because you are the linchpin that holds it all together. And so when we think through, a struggle, let's say we're dealing with our kid who's refusing to go to school, or they're homeschooled. So we're dealing with a kid who's refusing to do their schoolwork. They're refusing to do their math today or something like that. One of the things that we talk about first is making this shift. Now there's nuances to each of these pieces, and I'm not going to go in those today, but just to give you an idea what this looks like. So a shift here is changing your thoughts and beliefs about the behavior that's happening. So instead of seeing the behavior as they're manipulative or they're disrespectful or they're out to get me, instead you see the behavior as, oh, this is not about me. Behavior is communication, my kid's struggling. And so that allows you to be more present so that you can remain calm in the moment. And it allows you to be more open to solutions that you weren't already thinking about. It allows you to think outside the box. Instead of this is how it should happen, it like opens you up a little bit. So the first step is that shift. Then we move into connection. Now, a lot of people think that connection is one-on-one time, when in fact, if one-on-one time meant that we all had the best relationships in the world, then during COVID and pandemic, we'd all have the best relationships. But I would argue that we probably don't have the best relationships just because we spend time together. And so instead, connection isn't about one-on-one time or time spent together. Instead, it's about sending signals of safety. And what that means is allowing your child to feel heard, valued, understood, and accepted for who they are, even in their flaws. So this might look like putting your shoulders down. This might look like changing your tone of voice. This might look like sitting next to them. This might look like, man, it really is frustrating to do this math. Or I can see something's holding you back on this writing assignment. I've noticed that for the last week, you have avoided your social studies work, right? So you're just validating that they're having a struggle, that they're having a problem. And then we move to understand. Now, understand is where we get into the nitty gritty stuff. I could geek out over the understand stuff all day long. This is where we've actually created our own frameworks for understanding all the things that are out there, because we use something called the iceberg theory, which means that for every, like if you think of an iceberg, what you see is only the tip, right? There's only 1/7 of the iceberg on top, and then the other 6/7 is under the water. And so we use a couple of things to help you understand why the behavior is happening. We use one called a behavior funnel. So if you just think of under the iceberg having layers, and under the iceberg, the first layer is basic needs. So your basic needs of food, water, sleep. These are also where allergies or food sensitivities might go. And this is also where safety goes. And most people forget about your need for security and safety. And in a pandemic world, even if you homeschool and you were homeschooled before, there's still just an energy in the world right now that your kids can feel. Do not believe that they can't feel everything that's going on. And so that need for safety can then be a cause for some of the behaviors. And so we use this almost like a siphon. Like you can put the struggle in the top and then just kind of like step by step go through the different pieces and see, is it this, is it this, is it this? Now, one of the other things that we do is instead of seeing the behavior, we said the behavior is communication, like knowing that the meltdown, we had this on a coaching call yesterday, but knowing that the meltdown is never about the banana oatmeal, right? It's just never about the banana oatmeal. It's about something that happened before that and before that and before that and before that. And when we zoom in and look at an isolated instance, then we start to make assumptions. We start to call it manipulative or mean or bullyish or disrespectful or lazy. But when we can spiral it out, we can see much more of a bigger picture. We can use a camera lens to actually understand what's going on with the behavior instead of making snap judgments. Can you see this? I'm not sure if you can.
If you
there we
pull
go.
Up a little bit. There you go.
There we go. It had the screen on there. I didn't know that. I apologize.
Oh, it had been fine until just then.
Okay, awesome. All right. So am I moving at an okay pace?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Just making sure. So now for empowerment. A lot of us think of empowerment as I'm going to give my kid choice, or I'm going to let them I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to give them visual schedules. I'm going to give them a routine. I'm going to give them the step-by-step and they'll be okay. But empowerment is more than that. It's about helping your kids self-regulate, be self-aware enough that they can self-advocate in a way that others will listen. This is where you're actually taking their wants and needs into account and creating new expectations with them, not for them. So empowerment can look a ton of different ways, but a lot of times, one of the simplest ways to start the empowerment piece is with something we call huddles. Now, you've probably heard of family meetings. This is not what a huddle is. A huddle is not a family meeting. Family meetings are typically done when there's a problem, when you need to address, oh, well, you did this. Oh, well, you lied to me, or you didn't do your work, or you did that. No. Like, huddles happen on a daily basis. They become a habit in your family so that when something is wanted or needed or there is a struggle, you can have a huddle as a family to come up with solutions together. And that right there is our framework.
Solving.
Yeah, problem solving.
Huddles are problem solving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's only
and problem preventing as well.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of different ones. I mean, we have brainstorm huddles, we have problem solving huddles, We have like we'll have huddles where it's I like, you like, we like, and we're coming up with a plan together. So there's different types of huddles. There's actually 7 that we go over in our program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dayna.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.